Hello there, and time for another video tutorial, and we're going to build a simple scene. I really think you're gonna like this one. It's pretty easy. I'm hitting the delete key to erase the default cube, and I'll hit Shift A to add mesh plane. Now 7 on my numeric keypad to switch to top perspective and 5 for the top ortho view. I'll scroll my mouse wheel to zoom in a bit, and I'll hit Ctrl Alt 0 just to frame my camera. I'm going to select my camera by clicking this frame right here, and I'm going to hit G and Z to grab on the Z axis and move my camera a bit closer. Now right click to select the plane, tab key excuse me, to switch from object to edit mode, and I'll hit S and X to scale on the X axis, and we're at about there. Tab key to move back to object mode, and as you can see we have a plane that fits the camera frame. I'll now hit Shift A to add curve, a path. I'll zoom out a bit and hit the tab key to move to edit mode, and what I'm going to do now is select these points for the spline, for the curve, and I'll delete them. So we only have a point in the middle. I'll hit the A key to select all and select the point since we only have this one, and I'll hit the G key to grab it. You can see it right here, and move it right out of the frame, and about there. Now all I have to do is hold down the Control key and click in order to extrude the curve and create a more complex one. And I'm trying to form some sort of text here. And I'll hit the tab key to go back to object mode so you can see what I'm trying to do. Now as you can imagine, this will need some tweaking, so tab key again to move from object to edit mode. I'll begin pushing and pulling some of these control points for the spline just to form my text more and better. So moving them, hitting the G key to grab them, and tab key for another look. I think we're good, and I'll now switch to the curve panel and change the fill from half to full, and I'll also increase the bevel depth. I think it will be nice at about 0.04 or maybe 0.05. Okay, and I'll also increase the resolution. Let's set it to 3. And one thing you have to be careful about is, you can see those places right here where we have the curve creating some nasty results, and I'll hit the tab key and 7 to switch to top ortho view, and let's try to make those points, you know, a little less rough. Let's try to sweeten them a bit. I think we're good there. And since we're using a 3D application, we can do something else, and you'll see right now. Now we have this point right here, and I can hit the Z key to grab it and the Z key to constrain movement on the Z axis, and I can move it up just by a bit. I'll select this one and 7 on my mirror keypad to switch to top author view, and I want to bring this one just a bit closer, about there. Let's move this a bit. Let's take another look, and we can also do the following. Select this one, grab it, bring it just a bit closer, and about there. And all we want to have now is a nice little curve where the spline, we have the one part of the spline going below and one part going above. We have to do the same thing with the E, with the O, excuse me. As you can see, the spline will move here, and this point must be above. Now I'm selecting this point of the spline and this point, and as I'll also do when working with faces, I can hit the W key for the specials menu and click subdivide, and as you can see, we have a fresh point here that will help us fine-tune our text. I'm hitting the G key to grab it, and grab on the Z axis to move it up at about there. Now 7 for the top view, and what I'm doing now is actually tweaking the spline. I'll hit 0 for my camera and tab. Let's shape the O a bit more. Okay, let's grab this one, and let's grab the V. Now time for the E, and let's see how our spline will move. We move right here, below and above. So I'm selecting these 2 points, and again hit W for the specials menu and select subdivide. Now we have a new point for the spline. I'm going to hit Z to grab it. Let's move it, and let's move it again on the Z axis. Z and Z, and we are at about there. Now tab key and 0 for the camera perspective view, and I think it looks pretty nice. Hit the tab key and the A key once to deselect all, and once again to select all, and I'll hit the S key to scale it down. And I'm doing this just to frame my spline in the camera frame a bit better. Let's move it at about there, and I'm going to take the first point for the spline, I'm going to grab it, push it away from the camera frame, And for the end part as well, at about there, I'll shape my E a bit, grab it, grab this one, and this one, and I think we're good. Now tab key for object mode again, and time to select the plane. Hit the right mouse button to select the plane, and 1 on my numeric keypad to switch to front ortho view, and I'll hit the del key again on my numeric keypad, and I'm going to grab the plane, hit the Z key to grab it, and Z to constrain movement on the Z axis, and I'll move it down. Now 0 for the camera perspective view. I'll add the material to my spline text. Oh, the plane is selected. Okay. Now material for the text. Right about there. I'll bring the specular intensity down, 0.3, and let's try to render the first frame. I'll change the horizon color. I'm at the world settings. I'll change the horizon color from black to white. Click environment lighting. Change it to 1.5, and we're good at ray trace. Let's render an image, and I think it looks nice. Now escape key to go back to the 3D view, and I'm going to select the plane now, and I'll add a particle system to it. Now I'll change the type from emitter to hair. Let's fiddle with the particle settings a bit. I'll change the hair length from 4 to 0.05, and I'm zooming in just so you can see the hair. I'll change the number for the emission from 1000 to 3000. Let's also add some children. Clicking right here and select simple. The display is at 10, and I'll reduce the render from 100 to, let's say, 40. Size is set to 1. Let's take it to 0.9 and add some randomness on the size, 0.4. Let's add some clump effect. We need a really low value. Let's set it to 0.05. Let's change the shape a bit at 0.1, and all I'm doing now is, just fiddling with the settings until I get something I like. And we can also change the kink value. I'm going to set it to radial, and I think I need to change the clump value, and the strength of the kink value, I'm going to set it to 0.1, and I think we're good. Now I'll add a material for the plane, and I'm going to make it blue. And time for another image. Let's render. and here it is. Yeah, looks pretty nice. Looks pretty nice, but we can move on just a bit. Hit the escape key, and I select my curve right here and hit Shift D to create a duplicate. And all I'm going to do with the duplicate is hit the M key to move it to the second layer. You can see it here. And I'm creating a duplicate and moving it to another layer because I'm going to change the spline here. I'm going to move to the object options here, and I'm going to select convert to mesh from curve meta surface text. Now tab key to switch to edit mode, and as you can see we now have the spline as a mesh. Good thing is that we can add some modifiers, but bad thing is that we cannot further change the shape of the spline or the object with the points of the curve like we did before. But since we have a result we like and the text and the spline looks nice, it's time to move on. So I'm converting this to a mesh, and I'll hit the tab key to switch back to object mode, and I'll add a modifier, and it's going to be a displace modifier. I'll click right here at the new, so that the displace modifier will have a texture to work with, and perhaps is at the world, I don't know where this new texture is anyway. And as you can see, the strength is way too high. I'll change it to 0.04 or maybe 0.07. And what I'm trying to do now is create, you know, these random changes of shape for the spline, for the text. I'll change the strength to 0.08, and I'll also add a subdivision surface modifier. Let's set it to 2. And as I said before, if you don't like this result, we still got the spline based text right here, and you can bring it to the first layer and move and work with it. And the final step for our text, and we'll be having an animation again, is to simply add a build modifier, and I'm going to move the build modifier up. We want it to be above the build and the displace modifier, and I'll now hit 0 on my numeric keypad to change to the camera perspective view, and set the length for the build modifier. The build modifier will start at 1 and end at 120, so the animation will last for 120 frames. And I'll now hit Alt A so you can see the animation. Okay, I'm going to move at the end of the animation just to render an image. So this is it. If you don't like the effect of the displacement modifier, you can always move here and delete the displace modifier, and you can even take the curve from the second layer, move it to the first layer, and you can add a build modifier on the path, set the end frame again to 120, and I'll now select the text that uses the mesh. You can see it here, and I'm going to move this one to the second layer just so we can see that even though we have a curve here, you can see the build modifier works just as well. So this is it. I think it looks pretty nice. Feel free, I've reduced the bevel depth a bit. Feel free to create your own text, and I think it looks pretty nice. So this is it. Hope you like it. Just rendering the final image. I'll be posting some clips and render this animation so you can see it. So this is it, and thanks for watching.